Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Wish you a happy and healthy start to this lovely little hump day, Wednesday over here from a bright and sunny ever since 4:30 a.m. by the way, Helsinki, Finland. Anyways, with that said, we got plenty to talk about today on the short and medium term timeframes for Bitcoin specifically, but mostly eyes on Ethereum right now, as Ethereum is the one cone to rule them all, if you will, as it does become the dollar of the market, leading everything to the upside for the time being. As we did say, was likely yesterday, hitting a new all-time high price of about, what was it, 2750-ish region, nearly hitting our $2,800 target, of which, what does that lead us into now? Well, we'll be talking about that, of course, and more. And before we get into the Krown Chain application over here, I want to give a massive shout out to our lovely community member. You probably know him, Mr. Caretaker himself, getting a lot of recognition on TradingView right here for his reverse Stoke Momentum Index that he actually released. It's open source, and he actually just even released another open source indicator today, which you can find for yourself, which I'll be showing soon enough once we get into the actual charts. But I did want to give him a massive shout out because he's been an absolutely lovely community member, making indicators for this community and the greater TradingView community, and it has been massively invaluable. So massive thank you, Mr. Caretaker, and well deserved, man. Really happy that he has seen some recognition from the TradingView team there. Anyways, on to the Krown trading application we go. What do we see over here? We do see a few things that are somewhat different from yesterday, but not anything too out of the ordinary for Bitcoin specifically, which does lead me to believe that this is going to be somewhat of a boringish day within the medium term time frame range. Now, because we are dealing with big numbers, that is going to equate to, a couple thousand, $3,000, as far as the range goes. But at the end of the day, I don't suspect we'll see anything like too amazingly amazing from Bitcoin right now. I think it's more or less just ranging. It's time to be looking at the altcoins for the time being. Anyways, Bitcoin dominance heading down to a new low of 49.3, now bouncing up a little bit right here. I think it would definitely be worthwhile to check in on the Bitcoin dominance chart today, see what that looks like on the macro scale. On top of that, we do see fear and greed index has seen a massive rebound all the way up, technically speaking, into the somewhat greedish zone, although not really anything too crazy right here. We saw it get all the way down below even a 30 read into the the fearful zone, now bouncing up more or less neutral is the way that I look at this right here. But we do see a strong recovery, more importantly, alongside Bitcoin, more or less just around the median of the current range. So I do look at that as a little bit of an insight as to the strength of this current, move, of which I do look at this as more or less a reset. And on top of that, we do see that the open interest has actually come down a little, popped up a little bit from yesterday to today, about a $250,000. Hold on. I believe we actually see it come down. Let's go into the charts. We got a chart for this. That's right. That's the fucking beauty of it. And what do we see right here? More or less flat. It did technically go up about $100,000 from yesterday to today, and that is going to align still with a major range going on right now. It looks like we have about a $9 billion open interest base versus probably about a $13.5 billion open interest ceiling right now. So with all of that in mind, as long as we do see kind of oscillations between that reason, I do look at that as more or less a range just kind of evolving. What's more important here is any sort of a change of behavior outside of that range alongside a change of behavior on price action, of which we already have the etchings of that on price action. So I'm looking for something very specific right here. And and this is actually probably one of the easiest just little sound bites that I can give off right now. If I see Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin even just breaks back down below, let's say $50,000, and open interest starts to shoot up, meaning that it goes up at least $500 million, preferably $1 billion plus, then I would be looking at that as a damn good signal that we are going to see continuation to new lows on this current range, meaning $45,000 target does become very much viable, and potentially even a $39,000 target later on down the road. By the same token, as long as that condition is not met, I don't look at this as like a major threat of any sort of like extremely long-term pronounced downside moves, more or less just ranging on, on what is a very high dollar number. So the ranges will naturally be massive. Anyways, on top of that, let's go check out the top 10 best coins, top 10 worst coins. We got some Polygon action going on over here. Anchor, Phantom, Helium, Zilliqa, Chiliz, Hollow, Aave, Decentraland, and PancakeSwap, the fucking cute food coins, having themselves a nice day on the winners list. And on the other side, we actually see no stable coins today. So that is rather bizarre. That means that altcoins getting a little bit of a boo cake sandwich as of recent times. Horizon, Terra, Waves, Compound, Solana, Cello, XRP, Engine Coin. Not my XRPs though. What the fuck? Siacoin and Qtum all down. Somewhat muted gains right there. I mean, it's not too crazy for altcoins, to be fair, to be down about 5%, as they have been known to be incredibly volatile. But Horizon actually heading off the list at just under 12% right there, down on the day. Anyways, into the market data tab we go, and let's do a little bit more of a deep dive into this right now, as we do see on the line chart Bitcoin putting in what could be considered the first sort of sign of a bit of weakness here on the medium term time frames. Again, I really don't look at this as too concerning for like a, a very long-term move until we see this officially come down, plus openers just shoot up. If we start to see something like that, then yes, very likely people are putting on big short positions, or at the very least done with distributing their long positions, and it's time to have a bit of a more long-term change of behavior, of which I do think that that's certainly possible here. And if I did have to call it right now, I do think that Bitcoin will make new lows below this $48,000 low right here. However, very likely does take its time. And does Bitcoin have a little bit more short-term, medium-term upside potential? Yes, I do think so. At least we'll get into it soon enough. As far as funding rate goes, we do see that most exchanges are once again all positive, but nothing out of the ordinary here either. Again, I typically look at this as a decent signal, at least if Bitcoin wants to kind of grind its way out of these, short-term and medium-term to the upside. I do look at this as, a better setup for that. So I do still look at the underlying market dynamics as mostly supporting Bitcoin ranging. In this case, probably playing out maybe a little bit of short-term of a pullback, but overall, I still do think that Bitcoin likely does take a little bit of a leg up. Anywhere between about 56,000 to 58,000 bucks, and that is kind of the area that is fraught with perils. I've been saying. Anyways, we can see that funding rate has been absolutely on a nice trend down for a long time now, so that is good. Having that reset, and that would really imply that we are going to be looking at the next sort of major basing area here. And this has been taking about a couple months, 2-3 months now, so it can still take a little more time, but I do think that we are getting a little bit more mature here. Anyways, into the price action charts we go, and we can actually start off with this one right here. Caretaker has actually released yet again another free indicator. It's open source as well. It's for the Bollinger Bands over here, and it essentially can forecast what it's going to look like given a granted closure. So if you want this indicator, I believe, I already have it favorited over here, and it's called the Bollinger Band calculation tool. I think if you just type in caretaker, it'll probably come up as well. Let's see if that is true, and no, it is not. Anyways, let's try Bollinger Band calculation tool. This is a fucking mouthful right now. Something like this, calculation tool. Yep, there you go. And pops it right on up. And hey, Megalodon's got one too. Hey, nice one. anyways, the way that you kind of set it up over here is you can go play around with the inputs, and you need to put in a test closing price and tick this box on. That's going to give you the info box right here. And then you need to put in your closing price, or your presumed closing price, which will then drive the calculations for what the top side Bollinger Band is going to look like, the bottom side Bollinger Band is going to look like, and of course the basis as well. So I really actually like this, and this is going to become a staple on all my charts, or well, not on all my charts, but on my secondary charts right here. Anyways, as we just said, short-term time frames, a little bit of a pullback in order right now, and we do see that momentum oscillators are essentially having a bit of a reset right now. But I don't see anything that is too concerning from a short-term time frame perspective. That does imply that as long as Bitcoin is not seeing at least two of these three things in tandem with each other, I do essentially look for this one to get picked up once again off the bottom side of this range, which just looking at it right now is going to be somewhere around the 20 simple on the 4 hour, which is basically like low 53,000 bucks. Anyways, what I'd be looking for if this is actually going to break down on the short-term time frame, so I want to see the DMI minus get dominant on the 4 hour right here above the threshold at about 24 with the ADX strengthening right now. Neither is dominant. Obviously, they're just kind of dancing alongside of each other, but I do look at the next signal on this one where it actually does get a confirmed signal above the threshold. Can be obviously either of these ones. I would be looking at that as very, very likely to produce a medium-term time frame trending move, as we have seen the last signal being brought back on over here on the 17th of April. That was quite literally precipitating this drop from about 62,000 bucks to basically where we ended up at about 48,000 bucks, right? Time before that was a bullish signal right here, getting the continuation drive from about 60,000 bucks all the way to 65,000 bucks. So these are nice moves, even though realistically on the DMI, I mean, it wasn't even getting up there all that much. And the time before that was this little drive right here from about 58,000 bucks to the next short-term high at about 61,500 bucks right there. Same thing over here on this small down, and same thing over here on this actually decent up, and this one barely even got up there anyways, from about 55.5 all the way to nearly 60,000 bucks. So these are actually decent moves here based off of very, very little on the DMI. Anyways, if we were to see the DMI minus get dominant alongside either the MACD crossing to the downside or the SMI also crossing to the downside, and probably the SMI would happen first to be fair, although the actually MACD is a little bit closer right here. It looks like as it would take a closing price of about 50,000 bucks to force that one down. Of course, that will change on the next closure as well. Then I would be looking at this as very, very likely to be that next lower high that we've been looking for on the daily, or at least on the lookout for. Not necessarily that I'm looking for this. It's more or less I'm biased to be looking at this current price action as a bit of a conundrum in the sense that, well, I have to be defensive as a trader here, as we do have our first downtrend for the, I mean, realistically, the first like real downtrend since basically coronavirus dumb times. But if you want to be super exact with it, I mean, you technically do have a downtrend over here, although this one really didn't hold all that well. Just a very quick down and out and gets reaccumulated. Anyways, it should also be denoted that Bitcoin did break the green 55 exponential average for the first time since really this run started, again back in September, October of the past year. So I do look at this as regaining it right now is good for the short term, and could very easily trade back up to the 20 simple here, which is actually right now at about $57,000. But ultimately, this is the time to be a little bit more protective in my experience. And while I could very well be wrong that Bitcoin does not put in a lower high and continue with the downtrend, then at the least there's a very easy and documentable read on the other side, meaning that as long as as long as Bitcoin's below $60,000, I do look at this as more or less dangerous, or at least it's time to be protective as a trader. But above $60,000, I'm happy to get bullish once again, and for a trending move, that is obviously we've been kind of bullish in the short and medium term timeframes, of which I'd say that that's played out quite well, from about $48,000 to nearly $56,000. I mean, that's nearly $10,000 fucking dollar move right there. But again, we're dealing with big numbers, so within the context of this price action, does that really mean all that much? No, it does not. It's just a range essentially. But that also does imply that if Bitcoin does break above $60,000, it's no longer going to be a target of $69,000, although that naturally will very likely get hit along the way. What I'd actually be looking for is long term, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to make a move up to about 80 to maybe even $90,000 based off that, because this is going through a more prolonged sideways consolidation now, which is going to naturally imply that the breakout or breakdown is going to be more exaggerated in this case. So we do see this signature in Bitcoin many times in the past, where Bitcoin takes about 2 to 3 months to consolidate, both in bullish and bearish trends, and pretty much every time that does happen, it leads to a very, very phenomenal move. Now, these moves, I would not say that they're always a reversal or they're always continuation. I do think on the grand scale of things, they typically are more along the vein of reversals, but that's not always true. We do see one over here where it's about a 3-month long consolidation in a very similar format, and obviously this was continuation to the upside. Same thing, or actually this one would be a reversal to the downside right here at the middle of 2019 on this 3-month long consolidation between about June and of course September before breaking down. Bless you, sir. And then of course this one over here, a reversal as well before massive move up from 4,000 to 14,000. Same thing over here on this 3-month consolidation before breaking down. This one was a continuation, of course. This one over here, a couple month long consolidation at the highs. That was your reversal as well. So it usually does turn out to be more of a reversal, but not always. And of course, this one really starting back from, I would say about February is where we really got into this range. It is starting to mature quite a fair bit, and I would be looking for a breakout or breakdown from this range, meaning below our current low of about $48,000 or above $60,000, probably sometime late May, maybe early June. I do think that we're getting very mature within this area right now. And this is going to be further verified by the volume signature right now, which is kind of wedging itself into an apex, as you can see. And let's actually just go to Coinbase for this one, because I think it's a little bit easier to read. I'll actually take this point over here, but still we do see that this coming from way downtown. And this would imply an apex of about actually a year away from here, June 2021. That means that we are very, very likely to actually break when we're about 75% full, and that would be actually about middle of May, it looks like. Statistically speaking, that is when you are quite likely to actually break these things. And sorry, it's not a year from now. It's June. It's middle of June 2021. Jesus Christ, man, I cannot think in the early morning hours. Anyways, my point is that we still probably have another, 2, maybe 3 weeks left within this region, and then resolve it. And again, that does apply to both the upside or the downside. And of course, in this case right here, I am still looking at this area anywhere between, of course, the 0.5 fib retracement and the 618 fib retracement right here as an area that is kind of, the one area to rule them all, if you will. The area where I'd be very, 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 very skeptical of price action, because while Bitcoin could very easily rally up there, and in fact, I still do think that it probably even does. I mean, you could even argue that maybe we already tested the 0.5. In fact, I would say yes, we have, because I am using, of course, wicks in this case. And if we use closures, I imagine we probably have already officially done that. And what do you fucking know? Actually, no, we have not. Very interesting right there, but still pretty fucking close within that regard. could consider that a front run in this case. Anyways, as it stands right now, I do look at this area as still the area to be watchful of a potential lower high end. Could it come lower than this? And we already essentially tested it. Possible, yes. That would be playing the 4-hour CME death cross, which we'll go over soon enough. But as it is right now, this is the area that I really be very, 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 very skeptical in, just because of the way that the way that I trade and the way that I've kind of learned over time. I'd much rather err on the side of conservativeness in these sorts of situations, because at some point it will be an actual reversal. Does that mean that it's going to be this point right here? No. I mean, obviously it's just been continuation of the upside on all of these consolidations thus far, and we really haven't even been tested for any sort of like a major potential downtrend emerging from this current rally going all the way back to September, October. Basically until now. So I do think that, obviously at some point it will turn around. Yes. Is this the point for this current structure? Maybe, maybe not. But we have very obvious and well-documented areas for looking at something like that. Again, above 60,000 bucks right here. I don't see any real reason to be bearish. I'd be looking for bullish continuation for at least a few months, for at least a couple of 2 to 3 months. And 80,000 to 90,000 bucks is going to be a legitimate targeted region. By the same token, to the downside, 45,000 bucks still very much relevant. And below there, then I'd be looking at about 39,000 bucks. But one thing at a time, obviously. Anyways, let's check out our momentum oscillators on the daily right here. Again, we do see that the daily DMI plus ADX, the DMI ADX signal is being completely thrust back right here, being completely negated and faded out ever since really the 22nd of April. So, or actually, you can maybe even say the 24th of April, even with a small amount of divergence there as well before the actual pop. So I do like that, and I essentially look for the next signal out of the threshold here after, assuming that this actually comes back down first, which technically speaking it's not just yet, is very likely to going to be the next big breakout out of this range. So it's likely going to take some time. So what is like a realistic YouTube title for this next, like, I don't know, couple weeks? Bitcoin sideways as fuck, boring as hell, and critical alert, imminent breakout to either fucking side of $500. It's gonna not. It's I imagine it's probably gonna be a little bit boring here, but that's usually a good sign for like actual price action movements. We also see SMI is starting to really lose its luster as far as momentum on the downside. Again, I look at this as a bullish reset. At least in its current case, and same thing with daily MACD. So all these ones working together, kind of giving me that bias right now. But let's go into our regular charts over here, and let's talk about something that's a little bit more short-term bearish here, and why I am looking for a short-term pullback, and that's based off the death cross on CME. Now, I don't necessarily look at this as like a picture-perfect death cross. In fact, I think that if this one even plays a little bit, it probably has a very muted effect, because I really look for something very specific. And whenever you see a drop-off like this, and then it kind of pumps up and then crosses and then kind of gives you the trade, I don't typically like those. But if you are going to play a death cross like this, which I think is very much playable, and it's actually, I mean, to be fair, this would be the setup right here. Like if you put a gun to my head and said, Krown, you have to play this fucking death cross, here's how I do it. It's pretty fucking simple trade actually, which is usually a good sign, in fact. So yesterday's, or is this yesterday's? Well, it looks like it's this morning's high for me, but it might be yesterday for you if you're in the Western Hemisphere there. Let me make sure that I'm recording and my phone's working. Okay, it is. That's good. But basically, looking at this area right here, as long as we are below the high of that 4-hour dildo, which is about 55,790 to the tick, I look at this one technically as playable if you're going to be looking at this as a death cross. It also is going to be accompanied by potential hidden bearish divergence, which will be confirmed on the next closure, anywhere below basically the 10 simple, or which is essentially the last 4-hour open. So as long as the close below there, we will actually also confirm that. So we'll have short-term momentum oscillators alongside moving average and potentially even 4-hour TSI over here too, which is exactly where you'd be looking for it if it is going to have essentially a short-term bearish reset, of course, as it does come right around the zero read. So if you start to see it turn around here, that would be a really, 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 really good indication that Bitcoin is going to come back down and probably test somewhere around, at the very least, 51,000 bucks, and probably even a little bit lower than that. And that would also be accompanied by, if we go over here, the SMI. Let's see what that would be looking at, like at that region as well. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. Now, naturally, these do shift around with each and every closure, so it will naturally, come closer and closer to the current price action. But we have another 3 hours, 45 minutes, and 10 seconds left to go. So while that can change a lot within that time frame. So keep an eye on it. And of course, all of these tools are freely available anyways, actually except for the divergence tool over here. But hey man, you can also just learn divergence as well. It's pretty damn simple, and it really only takes like a couple weeks to actually learn this one. But if you want the training wheels like Caretaker has, well, go ahead and get it, because it's basically made me lazy as fuck as a trader, and also taught me a few new things as well. So I actually massively appreciate Caretaker for that. It's funny how like those simple tools, sometimes they, sometimes you think that like you've learned pretty much everything that you can learn with them, and then it's like, no, there's actually another dynamic to this as well. And so that's actually been really useful for myself. Anyways, off that tangent, onto another one. So if I am going to be looking to play a death cross like this, which fair enough, I mean, could have worked right here, this would be the place to play it, agnostic to everything else. I'd be looking at this as a risk management point. Again, the high side of this dildo 55,790, or any sort of a closure above the 200 exponential average on the same time frame, the 4 hour. If one of those two things happens, then I would be looking for a nice move in the other direction. Still looking at the same area that we marked off over here on our on our secondary charts, of which we'll put it back on the daily. I'd still be looking at, somewhere around the 618, rather likely at about 58,000 bucks, potentially higher than that over time too, depending upon how we actually react around that region. But for right now, if I am looking at the short-term timeframes, yes, pullback is the name of the game here. At least this would be a little bit more of a defensive play, and have short-term downside targets, again, assuming that the hidden bearish divergence does get confirmed right here. So again, it's one thing before the next, obviously, but if that does happen in tandem with this, which is already there, and of course if the TSI follows through as well, then that's going to extend the targets even more. But even if just the hidden bearish divergence does get confirmed, I would look for, at the very least, to move down somewhere around 51 to 51,500-ish region. So that is about a $3,000 move from where we're at right now. And if the TSI then turns around to getting that bearish cross, which again is not going to happen on the next tick, or extremely unlikely happens on the next tick, it would need a closure below. Yeah, it's not happening. Sorry, I'm not even going to say it right now. But it'll change around. So if that were to fall through as well, then I'd extend targets to the downside back around the current low of this structure, which is the 26th of April, right around about 47,500-ish region. So one thing before the next, that's how I would play. By the same token, to the upside, it's actually a lot easier to the upside right here. Like I said, if it takes out that high, I would be looking for a quick move up to just above 57, maybe 57.5, and then very likely finds its way towards a 618, which is another 500 bucks higher than that. And then that's where my big area of concern is for right now. Again, not to say that it's 100% baked in that it's going to reject there. No, it's just that if it rejects there, that would be your proverbial lower high, and then you have to be thinking, well, continuation of trend, or at the very least a retest of the prior lows. And personally speaking, I'd be looking at 45,000 bucks around there before the next real bounce on a higher term time frame. Anyway, speaking of higher term time frames, let's go to the medium term time frames here, and let's see. 12 hour is already, is not already. This is not confirmed, I don't believe. Yeah, it's not confirmed. It's dotted right now. But if we do see any sort of a closure below last 12 hour open, which is 54,515 on, again, CME, then I would be looking at this as confirmed hidden bearish divergence. That's going to have a target, again, back down, well, at least short term to about 52.5, and then more medium term, more like 51. So these are starting to work together with each other, and I do think that this is a bit concerning right here. So this would be the more immediate bearish case. Again, it would basically be the same sort of idea as what we looked at on the 4 hour, but I do think that it deserves a little bit of recognition right now. Personally speaking, I actually don't think that plays out. Personally speaking, I do remain somewhat short-term, or I guess medium-term bullish after a short-term pullback, which we're seeing right now, maybe back down to like 53 or so, and we'll see how that affects closures and where those where that kind of brings everything. Looking at the daily right here, what do we see? Again, is this shaping up to be a lower high right here? I mean, typically you don't really see it exactly like that, but obviously anything below 60,000 bucks is gonna be that lower high. So it is still under pressure. And we do see that the daily TSI is actually flirting around with the zero read here too. Now, this would be the area that you do expect it to actually find its footing if it is going to have and be considered a bullish reset. But as you can see, it's going to take quite some work for it to actually hold its own right here. So, barring any sort of a closure below even the 21 today, I'd look at that as not so great. In fact, we have something even or just as concerning that's potential to be confirmed today, which would be the 10 simple cross into the downside of the 21. That's obviously naturally going to happen with any sort of a closure. I mean, basically, well, anywhere below the 10 simple, obviously, but especially here or lower is going to look pretty nasty. Looking at the 2-day, what do we see right here? Same thing. And this kind of makes me think that Bitcoin still has a little bit of short-term upside here. It really wouldn't be asking too much to get Bitcoin to like 57.5, maybe even 58,000 bucks. But again, that is the area of concern. And looking at the 3-day, 3-day looks a little bit more nasty. Still have the 3-day jewel sell signal, which is operating a little bit better on, of course, spot exchanges right here, but same shit as well. And we actually did recover the 21 yesterday, so I am more inclined to be looking for a very short-term pullback, probably somewhere around the 21. In fact, it looks like we already got there, or yeah, we pretty much already got there. 53.5 region, and then probably does bounce up. But hey, if those conditions were met from what we looked at on the 4-hour, well, I would switch to, I guess, more short-term down, I suppose. But again, I'm not really leaning towards that direction right now. I think that the market has a few more people to shake out, and you can just imagine that Bitcoin were to rally like another 2,000 to 3,000 bucks from here. You're gonna see a lot of people get even more exuberantly bullish than what there are right now, and that would be a lot more liquidity to dump into, of course, for the bigger players if they so desire. Anyways, go check out Mr. Buteral, as Mr. Buteral did hit a new all-time high yesterday. Elsa's very happy about that because Ethereum is our favorite coin. And what do we see over here? New all-time closing high on the 3-day. Did we close the 2-day last night as well? No, we did not. And the daily obviously gonna have a new all-time closing high as well, and this is still looking good to me. We do see daily TSI officially cross the upside from yesterday to today, so I do like that. And if I had to call it right now, do I think that Ethereum continues to make new all-time highs? Yes, I do. In fact, I'm still looking at $2,800 target to get hit officially. Kind of selling off a little bit from the 414 right there, but that's not a big, that is not a big target. It's the 618. That's a big target on this one, and the one that I keep a little bit more of a keen eye on. Sorry, my chart's getting a little bit convoluted right here. Is it time to delete everything? It's time to delete everything. All right, there we go. Boom, and we can just redo this again. Simple enough, right? Got an obvious trading range right there. Boom, and this one's going to be a little bit different than the one that I had in there before, but it's more relevant to the more recent price action. So let's actually go off of closures in this case, because why the hell not? And then we actually will get the same one. So about 27.5 versus, yep. Okay, cool. So I'd still keep those areas of interest in mind. Going down to the short-term timeframes over here, I do think similar to Bitcoin, we have a short-term pullback in order. If this thing pulls back down to 2,500, I think that that's completely reasonable in the short-term timeframes. However, I would be looking for bounces around there. Again, specific to the short-term timeframes. See what this looks like on the Krown bands as well, just out of curiosity. All right, let's get rid of all of our drawing tools. There we go. And what is going on right there? Oh, I see what's going on right there. It's still pulling in my 5,500 closing price right there. Do like 26 or something. See what that prints up. Yeah, there we go. That looks a lot more reasonable. And what do you know? If we were to assume a closing price of 2,600 bucks, that would actually put the topside Krown band right around where that'd be 2,660. So still looking at that as a continuation point, actually for the short term as well, or sorry, it'd be like more medium term in this case. But of course, the end of day is, well, trying to get the end of day closing price can be rather difficult as it is still 17 hours and 27 minutes to get away. Once it becomes like, a few hours away, then we start to look at that as a lot more actionable, but at least we can have some basing ideas for where that kind of put things for right now. But as it stands, what do we see on momentum oscillators? DMI plus signal still dominant, ADX still strengthening. I like that. Daily MACD crossing the upside alongside a print to new all-time highs. I like that as well. Daily SMI crossing back onto the upside in the bullish buy zone, even in the critical zone right here. And what do we see for this? Needs to close above 25.93 in order to cross that officially back onto the upside on today's closure. So we'd have all momentum oscillators on the same side at that point, and also trending as far as the Krown band perspective goes. Yep, I still stick with my bullishness here, and I still look towards about 2,800 for an area of interest, and then above there, and that's probably not going to be all that much. I do think that Ethereum ultimately goes more, and then I believe the next one on top of that was like 33 or something. Where's my damn thing? Where's my damn diddly thing? There it is. Yeah, 32.5, anywhere between about 32.5 and 3,300-ish region is where I'd be looking towards. Look pretty damn good. And in fact, when I actually take this from a grade, when I take this from a closing range over here, we actually do see the 618 did pretty much get hit at 2750-ish region. We got up to 2714. Hold on. Why do I think that 2750 was the high of this one? Was it on BitMexico? Yeah, BitMexico got a little bit closer to there, to be fair. I'm using a different basin on this one too, but you know, around there is about right. So it does kind of make sense that it's pulling back right now. Not going to be exact on these, not going to be exact on these because I did take you know, a different extension on them. But ultimately, do I think that we have a little bit of short-term downside? Probably yes. Really wouldn't be asking for too much to come back down to about 2,500. But again, I do think that, or at least I'd be looking for a bounce there first and foremost, and long-term continuation. There's nothing bearish about the daily to me. Nothing bearish about the 2-day or the 3-day, especially with the way that we closed the last 3-day. In fact, the 3-day just confirmed hidden bullish evidence on that last closure. Once again, back into the bullish control zone, plus 3-day TSI turning up at the same time. All of this still points to new all-time highs. And yeah, can we go check out the weekly as well? Weekly is looking really fucking good to me. Really love the weekly RSI read, plus weekly TSI looking like it's gonna have a fresh cross the upside. We even see this trend line coming in. Hey, no, wrong trend line, bad trend line. There we go. There is your trend line right there. Basically coming in from these last few lows, going all the way back to January 2020, by the way. So with that, you know, with all of that said, I do still like Ethereum here. I do still favor Ethereum, and I do still think that Ethereum has some new highs to be printed. Let's go check out Bitcoin dominance as well, and then we'll wrap this bitch up. Actually, no real bishop today. I'm just we'll see. Oh, fuck it, man. This video is already 30 minutes long. God damn it. Oh, motherfucker. I still do think that Bitcoin dominance actually is going to find a bit of a low here and probably try a bit of a rally. But let's see. Where's that next major level coming in around? What is this, like just below 50% on this chart. Now on the Krown trading application, the Bitcoin dominance is being run off a few different numbers there, so it's going to be a little bit lower than that, probably like 49 even if I had to guess. But I would be, you know, I would start to be on a bit of a short-term, medium-term reversal watch on this one as it does start to hit these major macro areas. But for now, still, I guess a little bit more downside implied there as this one really aggressively fucking moves. Jesus, man. Anyways, again, that is going to align with most altcoins being looking pretty damn good. Of course, Ethereum Bitcoin parent is looking phenomenal to me. I'm in no way, shape, or form bearish on this in any way, by any stretch of the imagination. This thing could come back down to like 4.5 million Satoshis, and I'd be looking at that as a major opportunity. Weekly golden cross, I'm still looking at around just below 6 million Satoshis, medium term, long term, maybe like I don't know, like half a year to a year out, probably like 8.5 million Satoshis. This is a phenomenal base right here. So I still do favor that. Anyways, with that said, I think I'm going to end it right there. I don't know if I'll do a live stream today. I'm thinking about going on to like a 3 live stream a week schedule, because my main thing with the live streams is that I really want to see like actual new price action, you know, and when things are ranging and when things are kind of more boring and going sideways, you know, the live streams are cool. It's fun to commune with the community, but I want to make sure that, you know, it's also like worthwhile as well, and we're not just kind of like repeating the same things that we spoke about on the morning stream. So we'll see how things kind of shape up into the middle of the day today, and maybe we'll do a live stream, maybe not. But I think going on from here and forwards, I probably want to bring it down to like, you know, either 3 or 4 times a week, mostly ideally around price action, so that we can actually talk about something that's pertinent to the current situation, as this week has been more or less just, well, ranging with a slight just grind to the upside. Anyways, with that said, I think it's time for me to wish you the best once again. Take care and see you potentially soon.